International.
Shalom, my name is Joseph Shulam. I am here in Lebanon, Tennessee, not in Jerusalem, not at home, but here in the home of my son and daughter-in-law and my grandson. And I'm going to do a mind candy right here. Above me you see a shelf with some archaeological things. Most of the things that you see are actually from the time of Abraham, from Middle Bronze, from about 1800 BC. Things that I collected that I brought over here to the States to put above my head so that you can see some of those things that our forefathers used. I'm bringing to you a text that I never heard any preaching from it for any church, any pastor, any place. But I consider it as one of the important, wisest texts in the book of Proverbs and in the Bible, because it tells us things that God hates. It's from Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16 to 19. 6 and 7 things together that God hates. The first one is in Hebrew, haughty eyes, or eyes that look down on everybody else. Look on people from like as if they were above you, better than you, and that you are like garbage in their eyes. Haughty eyes. We have biblical examples of what it means. For example, in Isaiah chapter 2, verse 11 and 12, Isaiah says to the leaders of Israel at that time, Isaiah says to the leaders of Israel at that time, chapter 2, verse 11 and 12, the lofty looks of man shall be humbled. I'm repeating that. The lofty, the man who looks above, from as if he's above you and looking down at you, and with his eyes he is humbling you, and with his eyes he's silently cursing you. That's a man with lofty eyes that looks, from above on everybody else, but actually he is lower than everybody else himself. So, example of person who looks with lofty eyes is from Isaiah, that God says, the lofty looks of men shall be humbled, and they are humbled. Another example is from the book of Daniel, chapter 4, verse 30 to 37. It boasts, the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, is boasting, is not this great Babylon that I have built? Is praising himself of how great a builder and a king and an emperor he is. What happened to Nebuchadnezzar? God humbled him until he himself acknowledges that only God, only the heavens rule. Only God from heaven is ruling this world, and every king, prime minister, minister, president are nothing but servants of the people. And they should be happy to be only servants of the people and not place themselves in the place of God or act like divine entities themselves. God is going to humble them and bring them down King Uzziah, uh, King Uzziah, that is his deeds and his situation are recorded in 2 Chronicles chapter 26, verse 16. When he became strong and his heart was lifted up, brought him to destruction. Not only that, because he was so proud of himself, you know what God did to him? He struck him with leprosy, the worst incurable ancient disease that was considered, so bad that people that were sick with it, nobody even wanted to get close to them. Nobody even wanted to get close to them. So he built himself a palace on a hill on the south side of Jerusalem that overlooks the old city of Jerusalem, so that he could see the people rejoicing, having weddings with music and with dancing and enjoying life. And he was in his own little leper colony, looking from far away and not being a part of it. Yeah, that pride is the root. Pride is the root of rebellion. The sin of Lucifer in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 and 15. Resist the proud, but gives grace to the humble. That's what is quoted in Proverbs 3:34 and James chapter 4, verse 6. If you proud, you have proud eyes, you look down on everybody else thinking you're better than they are, in the end, God is going to humble you. Like he humbled Lucifer, the Satan himself, in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 and 15. Yep. The number 2 is lying tongues. Lashon hara in Hebrew, which means gossip, false witness, malicious spreading of bad news, talking behind the back of your brothers and sisters in order to make yourself look higher and better and lower their reputation and their place in society and even in the family sometime. And examples of this is the serpent in chapter 3 of Genesis, verses 4 and 5, who lied to Eve and said, you shall not surely die. God said, if you eat from that tree, you shall surely die. And Satan says, the serpent says, no, God is lying. You shall not surely die. Genesis 27, verse 19, Jacob deceives Isaac, his father, pretending to be Esau, his firstborn son. In Acts 5, verses 1 to 5, Ananias and Sapphira lie to the apostles and to the elders of the church in Jerusalem. And boom, they die right there on the spot. Psalms 5, verse 6, you shall destroy those who speak falsehood. The psalmist there, I don't exactly remember which one of the psalmists it was, David or one of the other psalmists, said, if you lie, God is going to destroy those who speak falsehood. The book of Hebrews, chapter 6, verse 18, tells us something very wise and good for us to remember. It is impossible to lie to God. It sounds pretty simple, right? But we forget that. When we lie, we forget that the Bible tells us ahead of time that it is impossible to lie to God. I like that. It's impossible to lie to God. And in Psalms 119, verse 160, and the same verse is quoted in John 17, verse 17. Truth is sacred because God's word is truth. You can lie all you want. You can never destroy the truth with your lies, because the lies will always be revealed as lies, and truth will stand because it comes from God. So, yes, that's the first thing that God hates, a lying tongue. No, it's the second thing that God hates, a lying tongue. The first thing that God hates is actually haughty eyes, proud eyes. The second thing is a lying tongue. The third thing is shedding innocent blood. Shedding innocent blood. The most famous one of all is from Genesis chapter 4, verses 8 to 10, where Cain, the brother of Abel, Cain and Abel, the two sons of Adam and Eve, Cain, out of jealousy, religious jealousy, kills his own brother. And then the text tells us that the blood of his brother Cain, no, the blood of his brother Abel, cries, and God hears the cry of Abel. The blood of Abel cries to the Lord, and God hears it. Imagine this. Six million Jews were killed in World War II. The number is considered truth. The record that Allied forces in World War II found in the death camps of the Germans approaches 6 million Jews. I don't know if it's exactly 6 million or 5,999,000, but many, many Jews. Children, mothers with their children, children in front of their mothers, sons in front of their fathers, fathers in front of their sons were killed. In our congregation, we had several Holocaust survivors that were in death camps and were saved. Hands that shed innocent blood. God hates that. And Cain and Abel, the two first boys of the first family that God created, one killed the other. 2 Samuel chapter 11, verses 14 and 17. David, King David arranges to kill Uriah, one of his generals, by another general, because he felt hurt, betrayed by Uriah. David, guilty of something, a sin that God hates, shedding innocent blood, my dear brothers and sisters. Jeremiah chapter 7 verse 6, God condemns those who shed innocent blood in this place, in the temple, in Jerusalem. Matthew chapter 27 verse 24, Pontius Pilate washes his hands as if to clean himself from the guilt of condemning Yeshua, Jesus, the Messiah, innocent, condemned to death by the rabbis who shouted, crucify him, and by the Roman governor of Israel at that time. Number 4, a heart that devises wicked plans. Why does somebody devise wicked plans? Either to have profit that he doesn't deserve, financial profit or political profit or any social profit that he doesn't deserve and it's not his, but he makes plans, devises ways to get to the satisfaction of his evil hunger for power, for notoriety. Heart that devises wicked plans. God hates that. Genesis chapter 6 verse 5 is an example of this. Every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. This is the description that the Holy Scripture gives us of the generation of Noah that God destroyed with the flood. They were all the time thinking how to take advantage, how to hurt, how to embarrass, how to deceive, how to cause others to hate their brother and sister that may be less fortunate than they are. 1 Kings chapter 21 verse 8 through 10. Jezebel, the wife of Ahab, that plots evil, even murder, to take away the vineyard of Naboth. There was a neighbor next to the palace of Jezebel and Ahab in the valley of Jezreel in the Galilee, lower Galilee. She plotted because her husband wanted it, but he was too weak to do anything about it. So she wanted to please her husband. So she arranged the murder, the shedding of the innocent blood of Naboth, their neighbor, so that she could take his vineyard away and give it as a gift to her husband. Plotting to deceive, to kill, with wicked plans in her mind in order to give a gift to her husband. Maybe for his birthday, I don't know. Micah, the prophet, chapter 2, verse 1. Woe to those devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. They're lying down thinking how to do bad, how to hurt somebody, how to do evil, how to take advantage, how to falsely earn money that is not theirs and not their rights, how to take advantage of the poor. Those God hates. It's a heart that seeks to do harm. God hates it. Notice that they're doing it in their bed. When they're supposed to be resting, they're thinking, how shall I hurt this bloke that was my neighbor? How should I cheat this guy that sells goods that crippled people and invalids create with their hands, sometimes even with their legs. How should I take advantage of that? Yeah. Woe to those who devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. Micah chapter 2 verse 1. Matthew 15:19. Out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adulteries, and thefts. Yeah. God hates that. When God hates somebody, believe me, they will pay. They will pay. Nobody escapes the judgment of God. We should know, folks, that what starts in our hearts, what starts in our mind, in our thinking, thoughts, unclean thoughts, thoughts how to be vengeful, how to hurt others, we need to remember that even if we don't do them, we just think about them, God looks at the heart. 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 7 says, the fifth thing that God hates, feet that are swift in running to do evil. We have several examples in the scriptures of this. Isaiah chapter 59 verse 7 says, their feet run to evil and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Talking about his generation. Romans 3 verse 15 and 16, Paul quotes this verse from Isaiah and describes the human depravity that his generation, and I would say our generation, is so infected with. Feet that run swiftly to do bad things to others. One verse that comes to my mind is the scene from the foot of Mount Sinai when Moses was up in the mountain getting the 10 Commandments from God, 40 days and 40 nights. Exodus 32 verse 6 says, they rose early in the morning to worship the golden calf. That's feet that run swiftly, running to do evil. And like I said, Paul quotes this verse in Romans 3, 15 and 16. Their feet ran to do evil and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Luke chapter 22 verse 48. Judas, that betrayed Yeshua, drew near to him, betrayed him with a kiss, swift to do evil. That's what it says, swift to do evil. Bearing false witness in a court, in a situation, speak lies in order to put somebody in trouble, to convict him of a crime that he may not have done. That's considered one of the things that God hates. I'm glad God hates that. I'm glad that God hates that. It's one of the 10 Commandments, by the way. You shall not bear false witness. Exodus 20 verse 16. So on the stone tablets with the 10 Commandments. We talked about Jezebel early, the wife of Ahab, the king of Israel, the evil king of Israel with his more evil wife. She used false witness to falsely accuse Naboth, the owner of the vineyard, because she wanted to take his vineyard to give it a gift to her husband. Yeah, we have in Daniel, the prophet Daniel, in Daniel chapter 6 verse 13, the officials of the king of Babylon falsely accused Daniel. The Sanhedrin of Jerusalem, the high court of Jerusalem, falsely accuses Yeshua. Yeah, with false witnesses, accuses Yeshua of sedition. The psalmist, in this case maybe King David, in chapter 27 of Psalms verse 12, says, there are witnesses that have falsely accused me and have raised against me. They want to hurt him, so they raised against him. The seventh thing that God hates: a person who sows discord against his brethren. A person who, on purpose, arranges a meeting, a situation of gossip against his own brethren, against the leaders, against his brothers, against the community, against his neighborhood, against the people who are closest to him. That's God hates. A person who shows discord among the brethren. We have examples of this. One of the big examples is Korach, that incites a rebellion against Moses by false accusations and false witness. We have 2 Samuel chapter 15 verse 6, Absalom, the son of David, who did everything to put his father down, the King David himself down, and embarrass him and lie about him and say that he's much better, he would be a much better king than his father if they elect him to be the king. We have a verse in Proverbs 16, the same chapter that we're talking about, verse 28. A perverse man sows strife among the brethren. A perverse man sows strife against the brethren. Now, these are the 7 things from Proverbs 16 that God hates. I imagine he hates some other things, but these are standing out up front, because I think that Solomon knows that they are pretty prevalent. Pretty prevalent. The proud look. Somebody who feels that he's something when he's nothing. And he puts down and embarrasses people that are supposed to be humbler than him, simpler than him, kinder than him, poorer than him, so that people will think that he is much better. A lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, heart that devises wicked plans against his brothers and against his sisters and against his community and against innocent people, feet that run swiftly in a hurry to do evil, false witness, and those, number 7, who sow discord against their brethren, against their neighbors, and think that they're big heroes because they see their neighbors and their brethren that they lied about and sow discord about fail, be persecuted, lose their jobs. God hates these things. And when God hates somebody because he does these things, any one of these things, believe me, the end of that bloke is not going to be good. The end of a person like that who sows discord among brethren will not be good. So please watch yourself. I need to watch myself, not to have a haughty look and not to lie and not to shed innocent blood and not to have my heart feel so much better than other people. I mean, not that my heart feels better, that I feel better with my heart looking down at other people. Heart that devises wicked plans, or not have feet that run to do bad in a hurry, to do something bad, to harm somebody, or those who bear false witness and put people in jail innocently in order for them to be proud and happy outside of the jail, when they themselves may be more guilty than the person that they lied about. False witness. And I feel one of the worst is people who sow discord on purpose in order to achieve their goals. So may God have mercy on all of us and train us and teach us and exhort us, and when necessary punish us if we're guilty of any of these things. May God have mercy on all of us. Study more of those books that very few preaching comes out of them, like Proverbs and like Ecclesiastes and like some of the other wisdom books like Psalms and others, that more often we cook in the pot and forget to stay away from these things that God hates. It's a wise thing to do. Stay away from things that God hates. You'll have a better life and a better eternity. May God have mercy on all of us. Amen.
Netivyah International, www.netivyahinternational.org.